Let him cook now. Let him cook. I said let him cook.
Little play fake by McCamey. Looking downtown. Touchdown! Basket! .47 yards for the score.
They're in 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends. And it's McCamey to basket. That's it. Now watch. Gordon does a pretty good job. He doesn't get his hands on him. He fell that little stutter. I like what he's doing, but he's got to keep his eyes on the receiver. As soon as his head.
2 backs and 2 tight ends. Play fake to Moore, looking up top for basket. Got him behind his man. Flag down, the catch is good at the 1-yard line. He got in behind Ernest Gordon, but it didn't matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble! Ladies and gentlemen, from La Casa de los Lobos, the Pit, here at the University of New Mexico, let's get ready to rumble!
Triple hay for you there. Oh, I got to remove this. Give me 1 second. Hope everybody's doing well. uh, well, no. I guess we have a logo on top now. Nothing I can do about that. All right, welcome to the show. My name's Ryan Tamori. Hope everybody is having a good Wednesday since we last talked to you. I'm going to bring in Ed Nunez. I hope his face isn't over. Okay, perfect. It's not over that. There we go. Much better. Ed, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Loud and clear.
Once again, not a great way to start the show. I think that's what I'm just going to live off of. You're down in Silver City. You're a Lobo fan since 1970 and the voice of Western New Mexico. I hope you're doing well.
I am. We, you know what, 2 tough losses last night for our men and women. We played number 2 team, University of Texas Women's University on the women's side, and then the number 12 team, Dallas Baptist University, which we actually led them at the half in the men's game, and then they outscored us 49-28 in the second half. So, yeah, a little bit tough, tough contests for our men and women, but they're back. The men are back at it tomorrow against UT Tyler at 2. So, I've got the whole day to waste away. Went to the gym this morning and the university and worked out. So, yeah, it's a nice day out here in Silver City. I'm sure it's a nice day out there in Albuquerque as well.
Yeah, not as cold. It was nice. A lot to get to today. Obviously, VCU comes into town, and I picked to win the A10. Ryan Odom. They've got a plethora of scoring. 4 dudes in double digits. I hope UNM learned how to play defense since New Mexico State and Western New Mexico. No offense there. Want to thank our sponsors before we get into it. And obviously, Jason Eck announced his head coach. And then today has been linked to Washington State. So fun times around the UNM football program. Want to thank our sponsors, Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Tim Baca Sr. and Tim Baca Jr. over at Hydro Bar. I just like saying Tim Baca Jr. and Tim Baca Sr. Affordable Service, heating, plumbing, and air conditioning for your HVAC needs in Albuquerque and Rio Rancho, both areas. Affordable Service has been in business in New Mexico since 1986 and is still locally owned. During that time, they've served more than 40,000 customers, providing complete residential and light commercial HVAC services, including heating, cooling, electrical, and plumbing. Affordable Service has taken pride in its staff and commitment to the Albuquerque and Rio Rancho community. I'm going to start here today with the press conference, Jason Eck being introduced as your 34th head football coach at the University of New Mexico. I like everything that he has to say. I think it was a phenomenal hire for the moment. I, who come on here and am negative Nancy, negative Nelly, I'm super, super enthused by this hire. I thought he said all the right things. He made a joke about his dad being a basketball coach and how he was no longer a shooting guard and a pulling guard. You could just feel the energy there. I think there were little UNM football alumni maybe not thrilled with the hire. I think you have to give this gentleman a chance. He was making $200,000 a year at Idaho. He will now allegedly make $1.2 million, at least to start, for his 5-year deal with incentives. I'm going to bring that up, and let me remove that background. Where did it go? There we go. This is his incentive, and this is what UNM sent out. His annual compensation, 1.15 or 1.1 million to 1.2 in year 2. Year 3 goes up steadily, and by year 5, if he's still here, 1.3. And then his incentives, if he wins the college football national championship, he gets $100,000. I think if he does that, you should give him $100 million. I stole that from Eric Moulton. Again, I thought he said all the right things. By the way, I forgot to mention our guest, Will Weber, Santa Fe, New Mexican, at 4:30. I apologize. Busy day for me at work, than getting ready to go to the game. So, as I've said, I've tried to be more prepared to host this show. I've done what I can, so bear with me. I apologize. I don't want to discredit our listeners or anything. But I thought that Jason Eck said all the right things. Fernando Lovo, tasked within 13 days, he had to hire a new football coach. I'm looking forward to what he can do. We will talk about the Washington State news today. Rick Thompson, if you follow him on Twitter, he joins the show. There was a private jet from Albuquerque to Pullman, Washington, home of Washington State last night. So that's very interesting. I think this is a right hire. I think he's done what he did at Idaho, and he tasked with less is more, or excuse me, doing more with less at Idaho. I'm going to piggyback off Jacob Neff, who joins, and you can see him on the podcast, the VCU preview, and Rick and Eric's reaction to that and the Western New Mexico game, and kind of previewing VCU tonight. He said that they needed to hire somebody from the FCS level. And he's obviously getting compensated much more, but this was, and I'm going to have to bear with it, Chris Vanini. I'm not Italian. This is what he tweeted out earlier today for Washington State. It feels like Jason Eck could have been a natural replacement for Dickert. That's the Washington State head coach. He is on his way to Wake Forest, just down the road at Idaho, except he took the New Mexico job timing. I did not know this. I knew they were very close. Pullman and Moscow, Idaho, not Russia, not Soviet. In Soviet car, Russia drive you. Pullman and Moscow, Idaho are like 9 miles away from each other or something. I didn't realize they were that close. It's like a 20-minute drive. So there's that. Ed, I will start here with the good news. And again, Will Wilbur of the Santa Fe New Mexican joining us about 20 minutes. Ed, you heard the press conference. I want your thoughts.
I did hear it, and I thought the pulling guard as opposed to a shooting guard, that made me laugh. I thought he said the thing about the 5 components he used. I kind of forgot what Fernando Lobo led him off with, but he talked about building. He talked about quality programs. He talked about recruiting New Mexico athletes. He talked about the opportunity here at New Mexico. He said that. He goes, it's a great opportunity, and I had to stop and think about that. Our 3rd coach in 4 years here. Is it a great opportunity? Would people say that this is one of the top jobs as far as football goes in college football? Probably not. But I love the enthusiasm. Look, I'm Ryan. You're my guy, man. You know you're my boy, right? When you're enthused, super enthused, I'm like, shoot, man, my meter goes to the 10th power. If you're enthused, because I know it takes you. You admit you're a fan. But you put, you're a guarded optimism. And if you liked it, you were there. When I went back and listened today, I was really enthused about just the way he brought, the way he's personable, and the personalities don't win football games. The way he talked about the program, though, the way he wanted us to build, he's happy to be here. He talked about his kids and his family. He was hoping his son comes here. He said, my son's, not figured out where he's going yet. I think there's a good chance he ends up here. So I thought he said all the right things about staying here, building a program. He said there's a lot of possibilities here at New Mexico. And I don't think we got that with Bronco. He's very guarded with the media. I don't know that and again, he's a different person. So I don't know that we got the level of enthusiasm and buying into the global football program that we got with Jason Eck, at least at the press conference. Now, look, we're even getting messages as we speak. If he leaves, man, he leaves. Now, he gave a commitment, now a verbal. He hasn't signed the I'm talking about Coach Eck. It's already been, but you mentioned that 9-mile, 20-minute drive. I don't know. There's so many things now with NIL, college football, loyalty. Does it exist anymore? I had a conversation with the former Lobo today about that. And, we're excited now. Only to have our hearts broken again. Would that be our 4th coach? Now, he hasn't coached a game here. Now, this is all speculation. I think he's staying. I don't think, he was very enthusiastic. So Washington State, I thought, had Coach Vigan, the guy from Montana State, also as a candidate.
Vigan,
yeah. So if he's a candidate there, that he's an excellent candidate there too. So I think the speculation is speculation until I hear different. I said that. We'll find out if that's the case soon enough. But he came here yesterday, sold it. I was very, enthusiastic about what I heard. Fernando Lobo seems like he hit. Most people are happy with it. You mentioned some of the alumni. I don't want to mention any names about it. I think there's a few guys that weren't very happy because some of the alumni that they figured might get an interview. We don't know if Zach Ornette or Holman Wiggins even got an interview. We're not sure how the hiring process went, but he's here. Coach Eck's here. And, I guess until Washington State hires a coach, there's going to be that speculation. And this is the crazy world of college athletics that we live in, nowadays. Everybody, and again, that's the same thing with New Mexico. Remember what Glover Quinn said: if anybody succeeds here, they're looking at it as a stepping stone, and they'll leave. And Coach Eck hasn't been here yet, so I'm hoping he stays for at least 3 or 4 years and builds this program to win, to be able to go to. He talked about going to a bowl game in his first year. Again, he said all the right things. We mentioned coach speak and the athletic director speak. Some of that was that. I like what I heard, though. I really did. Seems happy to be here. You mentioned that you thought Bronco was miserable. It looks like Coach Eck is off to a good start, at least in his first press conference. So I was very happy in listening to it. I listened to it just a little while ago.
I have to go to the comments right quick. At very least, Coach Eck didn't look like he was held hostage during the presser.
That's funny.
I mean, Bronco,
that's funny.
I've said this multiple times over the last 2 weeks, and I'm a broken record, and I will use my expletive word for this show. Bronco Mendenhall looked fucking miserable. He looked absolutely miserable. If the rumors were true that his wife hated it here, I don't know who that guy is, but anyway, I'm not going to entertain the comment. I've used my one expletive.
Let me just say one thing real quick.
Go
I'm going
ahead.
to say this again. You know what? Remember, nobody put a gun to his head and made him take $1.3 million. I'll be miserable too. Let me sign that. But I want to say this. Robert Portnoy is the voice of the Lobos and does a great job. He's an excellent broadcaster. He's been with the Lobos for a long time. But I watched some of those interviews with Robert and Coach Mendenhall, and I didn't see the usual connection between an announcer. I've got connections with the coaches here at Western. I have a connection with them when we're interviewing. And I looked at Coach Mendenhall, and Robert's great at his job. I'm not blaming Robert on that at all. But it looked like Coach Mendenhall just was like wanting to get out of there as fast as he could. No connection there. I didn't see one. And Robert, again, is a professional. So I don't know if that's worth anything, but I did notice that.
Bronco and the missus may have hated him because they couldn't find any of those. Oh my God. I shouldn't have. I appreciate that. Our sponsors and my business partners might not. That was pretty good. I've said it deep down. I think that Bronco took the job for money. He left $4 million on the table at UVA. I completely repeating myself here. I still deep down in my gut, and Rick Thompson will attest to it. We didn't say it on the record, and I don't like to do this. It's not here nor there. I don't think he wanted to be there regardless if he had a defensive coordinator position here. I think he was here to take a paycheck. He might have left. I think Utah State was really the nail in the coffin on that one. I know that there's going to be some New Mexico fans out there that are going to say, why Wazoo? Well, you have been in the Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-8, I believe. This is a team that has played in a Rose Bowl, a program that has played in the Rose Bowl. I like history. I didn't know this far back. They won the Rose Bowl in 1915. They lost the Rose Bowl in 1930. They lost to Michigan in 1970. In 1997, Brian Greasy, Charles Woodson, Heisman winner, 21-16. Ryan Leaf was on that team, a phenomenal quarterback. They were in that game. They lost 21-16. I'm knocking UNM. I lived and died with this program 20 years ago. Unfortunately, we don't have that caliber of getting there to the Rose Bowl. We have not broken in. Mike Price got them in 2002. They lost to Oklahoma. So again, this is what Mike Price did. Mike Leach took them to new heights. Jake Dickert can have all the fun with that name. Again, ranked. Beat Wisconsin early last year. They were ranked. UNM beats them here as the 18th ranked team in the country. I think they've gotten a little bit more recognition with what they've done as a program, and I know people are going to throw the tomatoes at me, but again, it's a program that has seen some pretty highs. I agree with that. I cannot fault Jason Eck if this rumor is true, and he would want to take that job. Because once again, It's Albuquerque and it's New Mexico versus the world. And I don't think if you've ever lived anywhere else, you probably don't understand that. If they're paying him 1.1 million to start the year and Washington State comes and says, here's 2 million, what are you going to do? He's been in Albuquerque for a whole 48 hours or 72 hours. You're really going to hold that against him? I would be upset. I have to stop there. I would be upset because my alma mater now, I don't know what you do at the football program. I've screened probably drop down to the FCS level. At this point, you have to. You don't have a football team, and not you don't have a football team. I mean, you still have a program, but it just feels like you don't have a football team at all. I cannot fault Jason Eck for going to Washington State. Ed, I don't know if you want to piggyback off anything I said there.
No, well, yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah, I understand that. But we talked about the not going to the FCS level. I told you I had a talk with Western New Mexico Athletic Director Scott Noble about that. And he said, hey, you got much money from the conference to do that. And that's not going to happen right now. I said, I still thought that conversation was a long way away. Fernando Lobo has come in here. Do you think that he's really going to say, hey, he's trying to hire a coach here? And I'm still saying until we hear more about Coach Eck, he's still here until I hear that he's not. Now, we've been through it with Coach Mendenhall. He said, no, Utah State did not contact me or whatever. We saw how that turned out. So, yeah, I mean, I can see, look, what you said about 1 million versus 2 million with JT Toppin was out for what, $400,000 here and got 1 million from Texas Tech. So, yeah, it's economics, it's math. You're going to take the money. So, and plus it's close to his house. If that's the case, I really hate to speculate on rumors and stuff like that after the guy just came here and said, I'm here, I'm going to be here. Now, we've seen it happen before. I'm not saying that's not possible, but until I hear that he's not here, I'm going to say I'm glad that he is here, period. So, but again, you mentioned that about the realities of college athletics and money and NIL and coaches bolting. We've seen it. We're going to see it more and more. It's not going to stop. It's just the way of the world now. And it would be, but again with UNM, if he did go, and I'm saying if you got what's your fourth coach, that would be crazy. Now, does that mean do you go to FCS because of that? I disagree. I totally disagree with that.
I understand that.
Yeah, but I respect your opinion too, and I would feel like I don't know what I'd feel like. I guess talk to me if that does happen. But right now, I'm going to say he's staying here until I hear that he's not.
That's your third coach in 12 months. I mean, I don't know any other place that would have had that. It's just, what I've learned today. I mean, it's quite insane. I would not be shocked. And I know a lot of people would be. I think I get enough shit as it is because I'm opinionated and I'm cool with it. But I'm sorry, Wazoo. We had somebody tell us that Texas Tech was on another level, was a lateral move. No, it was not. I would say Utah State is a lateral move, but their football budget is triple what UNM's is. And they caught lightning in a bottle in 2021 and won the Mountain West Conference. I don't mean to Janet Jackson you, but what have you done for me lately? At least that's much more recent than anything UNM football has done. And I'm a little thankful that the UNM football team didn't make a bowl game because I don't know. No one, and I know it's speculation. Nobody knows what it would have looked like. So there's that factor. And I don't think look at Marshall. They had to opt out because everybody went to Southern Miss. Then they had to plug and play Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech's probably going through the same thing, with the portal. But we're going to be joined by Will Weber in about 5 minutes. Ed, you're the basketball guy. I just wanted to get your thoughts on Jason Eck again. If he's here, I'm enthused. I really didn't like Bronco, so I will talk trash about Bronco all day. It won't hold back, but I really liked what I heard from Jason Eck. I thought he had a sense of humor. I would love, if I still drank, I'd sit down at a bar and buy him a beer and talk his ear off and listen to him for about an hour or two at a bar. I would love to do that. He's got 5 kids. One of them's named Maverick, so I need to know if there's a Top Gun connection there. I'd have to ask that. But Ed, before Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican joins us, and I love Will. I've known Will for years. Big matchup tonight, mid-major in the pit. VCU comes in 4 guys in double figures. Max Schulga should be a familiar face to UNM fans. He played at Utah State. Of course, Ryan Odom was there. If you don't know who Ryan Odom is, Google 2018 NCAA tournament. Knocked off Virginia in the first round, the first 16 seed to beat a number 1 seed. He was the head coach there of the UMBC Retrievers. Fantastic name. 4 guys in double digits. All of them are guards. Philip Russell, Zeb Jackson, Max Shula. Jacob Neff's in the room with me. How do you say it, Joe? Bama. See, I didn't do my homework. I'm sorry to those who criticize me being unprepared. I'll look that up. Ed, what are you looking for tonight from the Lobos? By the way, the game is on the Mountain West Network. You can always listen on the Lobo Radio Network. Also, I believe on YouTube from the guys at the Field of 68, Jeff Goodman, Rob Douster, my man, John Fanta. But Ed, I wanted your thoughts on how do you see UNM winning this game tonight? VCU plays defense. So I wanted your keys to the game tonight.
Well, I think one of the things you mentioned is, they've got 4 double figure scores. And I think the defensive performance against New Mexico State, that's the last one we really saw. I mean, in Western New Mexico, they beat them 122-70. I don't know if you can count that. It was a game, an exhibition, but they really isolated New Mexico out there on the perimeter with Carpenter, the shooter from New Mexico State. They set that flare pick at the top, and he just, guarding in space was a big issue for Nelly that night. And the other guard for New Mexico State, Cook, he had how many 3-pointers that were clutch? Their 3-point defense was not very good. So they've really got to shore that up as far as, and they mentioned, I don't know if it was Rick or Eric or my son that mentioned about Nelly hedging out. Defenses have kind of adjusted to that and gone into their playbook and adjusted with that by reversing the ball on that quick hedge out and getting some easy shots. VCU is legit. This is a game New Mexico, I think, really has to win. That you lost against New Mexico State. The UCLA is ranked 18th, so they've been playing well. I think USC had a big win recently. So those wins against UCLA and USC look good, but you lost to St. John's. You lost to New Mexico State, which had lost 5 straight. You mentioned what a big loss that was, and it was. So tonight, I think they've got to win. It's almost a must-win, for later on seeding in the tournament. So I think Leibich had a good game against Western New Mexico. Does he get more playing time? Borovichidin, he's finally starting to find himself. Coach Pitino tweaked his lineup a little bit, and I think he's going to continue to do that until he gets the guys that seem to be playing in sync early on in the season. So I think all those defense and rebounding are always keys to any victory. So I think New Mexico hopefully is ready to play tonight, because I don't think that game against Western New Mexico on Saturday did anything for their, except they won. It was a big win, but did it really help them to get ready for VCU? I'd probably say no. So I think all those things tonight are key. And of course, as the Lobos go, as Donovan Dent goes, New Mexico goes. So I think, again, on the defensive end and rebounding, 4 double-figure scores for VCU, how you guard them and how you communicate defensively are very keys. Will Coach Pitino mix up defenses a little bit tonight? You might see that. You haven't seen very many zones from them tonight. Do they go to a trap when they score? Are they going to press a little bit more, try to speed VCU up? They were successful with that. New Mexico's sometimes best offense is going off their defense, stealing the ball, and scoring. So all those things considered, I think we'll see tonight what kind of game you have at the pit.
Well, I used to make a joke on my radio show about how can I mispronounce this UFC fighter's name. It is Bamasil, Joe Bamasil. And again, he averages 17.2 points a game. Max Shulga, 16.5, again, familiar face. Zeb Jackson, 11 points a game. Philip Russell, 10.7. I was on their VCU's website. I thought it was fantastic. Much like the University of Miami, the U, you can just donate to their NIL on the website. I don't know. I haven't seen anything that UNM does that. I think that's fantastic. As far as the seeding goes, I mean, this is a team that was picked to win the A10 or up there. Obviously, Dayton, UNLV. Did they win last night? They lost by a point. I know they were in it. They put up they were 11-point dogs at UNLV. That's right. I thought they lost by a point. I couldn't remember who had lost or won. Again, a lot going on today. Sorry. I mean, Dayton's a good team. Anthony Grant's done a phenomenal job there. These are your two premier teams in the A10. I had heard that Dayton, Ron from Pick Dogs, Ron's Bank Shot Breakdown, free advertising for a website that I watch, YouTube channel. Dayton is kind of being pulled away to the might be pulled away to the Big East. That would be phenomenal for them. I think that would be a really big deal. But I think this is a big test. I'm excited to watch this game tonight. I had heard that, yeah, thanks, Rick. UNLV blew the game. I had heard that there's not many tickets sold to this VCU game tonight. I don't know what is going on that end, why there's not a lot of butts in seats. I'm very, very dumbfounded by that. I will use that word because I thought that this team was being rallied around. If you thought they were going to sweep through, obviously you want to win every game. If you thought that they were going to sweep through this schedule, even Richard Pitino told us in Vegas, he would not be shocked if where they were at. Now, I think the NMSU loss has teetered some fans, and it is a bad loss. As I said, it is a at-large killer, and you died your at-large death early on this year with, what's predicted for the Mountain West. I mean, you can take to what Joe Lafarty said. Ed, as I always ask you, how many people do you think will be at this game tonight?
I want to say that I'm with you. I'm surprised. I thought there'd be a lot more, as you mentioned, butts and seats when I've gone. This is a team that usually there's no issue with the Lobo basketball fan base rallying around a team that was predicted to be pretty good. But the attendance outside of New Mexico State, which was packed and sold out, the concourse was so crowded at halftime. So I would say I'll say 11,000 tonight. I would hope that there'd be 13, but I'm going to say 11.
Yeah, the comments are the best. Ronnie at Lobo Ronnie, I just looked online. There are a bunch of seats left. At least 5,000 left on the corner seats, and behind the basket are left. I am quite astonished by that. If there's 5,000 left for this, I get the semester's over. Learned that from coach, current UNM head coach, Jason Eck. Yeah, it's the end of the semester. I mean, but I would think that the CFP, you get about 2 weeks. That's a destination. I see that comment. I feel like that's going to be a destination. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't expect that those games are not going to be sold out. I looked at the ticket prices. They weren't that bad. I think University of Texas was the highest ticket. Penn State might have been the lowest, Rick. That's embarrassing. This may be the best team we play the rest of the season besides SDSU. Yeah, I've been impressed with Boise. Quick commercial break. We'll be back. Hopefully Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican will be with us. Thanks for watching. This is the Pit Press Live. I'm Ryan Samori, joined by Ed Nunez.
Let him cook! I said let him cook!
See the envy me, passing it off like CP3. Shawty, she calling me MVP. I be on time, it's something you ain't never seen before. They call me the Dama, really want my whole team to score. Damn, yeah, too icy, yeah, too clean, yeah, my zone, yeah, 2-3, yeah, got shooters that hit from deep, bust like Giannis, yeah, too mean. Bright lights like we at the garden, on P, don't get me started. Whole team walk, give me the party. If I can't make the play, I'ma lob it. If you jump, that's right on your head. Had to put him to sleep, go to bed. I'm a star, drop 50 and left. From the logo, like I'm Steph. Put it up, knock him down every time. Going hard like my life on the line. Catch me on the course, I would've down. Never losing, I put it on mine. Had to get out my shell, I've been laying low. They get real when it comes to the playoffs. They fight with me, no it's a KO.
Welcome back to the Pit Press Live. My name is Ryan Tamori, joined by Ed Nunez. We are efforting Will Weber of the Santa Fe, New Mexican. Hopefully he will join us momentarily. Sorry for the drawn out commercial break there. It's always fun trying to produce and host at the same time. We were talking about UNM football, UNM basketball, obviously a big game tonight at VCU with VCU. Ryan Odom and his crew come into town, pick to win the A-10. Probably one of the last best home games of the season. Given maybe SDSU with where they fall top 50 Ken Palm. I don't know, fascinating game. Heard that there were 55,000 seats left. I am very, very shocked by that. Ned, we were talking about that before the commercial break. I wanted your thoughts on that. I mean, that kind of shocks you, doesn't it?
You know what? Somebody talked about the the mistake of the pit, right? And the Lobos last year won the Mountain West tournament and got an NCAA bid, and were projected to be even better this season, or supposed to have a good season. So that normally translates into a full pit. I've been surprised that the games you and I have gone to, that hasn't been outside of New Mexico State. That has not been the case, and that's really surprised me, because back in the day, and you always mention I'm old, man. So back in the day, even when I'm going to give you an example, when they had Lobo Gate, they still sold that place out even with walk-ons. And of course, that's a long time ago, and things have changed. I understand that the pit is not what it used to be. When they did the renovation, they got rid of 3,000 seats, which made a lot of people upset. When Alford was here, I think they sold out just about every game. So I thought coming into this season, there wouldn't be any question. This is a fan base that backs their Lobos always in basketball. Now, football is a different story. But when the basketball team was halfway good, you've always got sellouts. And it surprised me looking around the pit. My son and I, when we've gone, my son will say, God, there's a lot of empty seats here. Now, against New Mexico State, the most recent game we can go on, against Western, they announced an 11,000 fans. It's probably more like, 7? I didn't go. Ryan, you were there. But it surprised me that there hasn't been the lack of attendance that there's been so far this season. Again, this is a fan base that is wild about their Lobos, so you don't have to encourage them. And tonight, I think Jacob Neff said 5,000, or I'm sorry, one of the commenters online, was it Ronnie, said that there's still 5,000 seats left. That's amazing to me. That really is.
It's 5,000 seats left. And some breaking news here before we bring on Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Diego Pavia has been granted another season of eligibility, and then CBS Sports is reporting it, that he has won his injunction and he will play football next year. But I want to bring in our next guest, and I'm happy to finally get this gentleman on. He's a reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican. He covers the Lobos and high school sports in northern New Mexico. His name is Mr. Will Weber. Will, how you doing today?
I'm good, but Ed, dude, you got to wipe off your camera, man. God, it looks like you rubbed Vaseline on your camera or something. We want to see your beautiful face, dude. Let's get some. If you need, I can have some wet wipes sent over to your house or something. I'll call Walmart right now.
I've got him on mute. He can DoorDash in Silver City.
Yeah.
And you're up for rebuttal.
Yeah, Will, I got to tell you this. Jim Murphy of the coach at Hope always says, "Hey, you got a face for radio, man." So I'll just go with that.
Golly.
How
you guys doing?
Hey, we're hanging out, having fun. Ed is bright, but he's in silver, so he gets a pass because he does normally look good when he's at home. I don't know how you can take that comment whichever way you want. Ed's gonna disconnect from the show. I guess I'll start here. You hear that Diego Pavia has won an injunction and can play college football next year. Your thoughts?
Yeah, might as well. There's no more rules in college football. There's no more college rules at all. I mean, if the guy there's another quarterback that's getting an 8th year of eligibility this week. I mean, where's it stop? But look, Diego, he went to the same high school my kids went to high school at, and I don't know him, but it's good. It's good to see a local kid doing well. And if you can get another year of eligibility, if you can get another year of NIL, and you can get yours while you can, then go ahead and do it. Because college football isn't college football anymore. It's a giant circus run by a bunch of monkeys at this point. And it's not even amateur sports anymore. It's not college football as we know it. It's literally a feeder system to the NFL, where guys are getting paid more now doing college stuff than AAA baseball players are in the minor league system for the majors. It's unbelievable how, I mean, just everything's so wacky now. It's hard to watch, and it's even harder to cover because stuff changes literally by the hour.
Well, I guess I can start with this now because it's by the day. Today, what today was, and where you and I were sitting yesterday in the club level at the pit watching new head football coach, Jason Eck, be introduced. I'm going to start with this question. I am generally the naysayer. The listeners know that. I was quite enthused by him. What he had to say wasn't boring Bronco, and at least he didn't offer a third digit on the scoreboard at University Stadium. But what did you make of his introductory press conference?
Well, he didn't wear the red jacket. He's the first coach in any sport that I could think of that didn't wear the red blazer since Paul Weir. But I remember Paul Weir memorably turned it down and said he had to earn his. But no, I actually like the guy. He does have a personality similar to Danny Gonzalez in that he can carry on a conversation where it doesn't look like somebody's ripping out his toenails looking at you there, Bronco. And really, Bob Davie, as polished as he was at speaking in public, Bob Davie was not exactly the great communicator. So I think they're seesawing back and forth between guys who are super awkward in front of the media, in front of other people, and guys who aren't. And he's definitely one of the people who can just relax. He's the kind of guy where you feel like maybe on a day off, you can go over to Saggio's and get a calzone and just sit down and talk to the guy about anything. He's that kind of dude. That's the impression I got from him. Look, does it mean that he's going to win? Nah, I don't know. Look, Danny got here and as likable and as approachable as he was, he just turned out not to be a very good football coach. And then you bring in Bronco, who is one of the more introverted people and awkward people when speaking to him one-on-one, and the guy did a great job. But who knows what kind of personality works best for UNM. But look, first impressions are what they are. Usually guys who go into press conferences, they win the thing, and he was – look, even going back to Loxley. You mentioned Loxley with his third digit on the scoreboard. The guy won the press conference just like they usually do. Now let's see what you can do in terms of, man, just making something out of nothing with this football team, because it's almost like you're starting from scratch.
It's definitely trying to walk the walk here at UNM. I agree with you there. Did you catch any of the news that Washington State was interested in? What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think Washington State saw Wake Forest peeking in through their back window towards their head coach. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. But I think the thing that really caught my attention with all this is how much they're paying the guy. He's actually going to be making more than Mendenhall did during his time here. And I just everyone I'd spoken to made it seem as if it was going to be whatever coach was going to come in here is going to be at a discounted rate, unless it was a named guy, somebody that came from a power conference, like a coordinator from a power team. So it seemed like when they named him, it was going to be coming in below $1 million a year. But in some ways, it's almost it shows maybe a sense of stability with UNM's athletic department that they can afford to pay this guy $6.25 million over 5 years. They did write in a clause in his contract that makes the buyout a little bit bigger than Broncos was, but at the end of the day, I think it shows that they got the right guy who's definitely on an upward trajectory. And Ryan, you and I sat there when he gave his little spiel yesterday. He talked about some of the lean years of being an assistant coach, and I've said this many times about an assistant coach in college football. It's a lot like being a military brat, where you're just moving around from place to place. And you can never really just put your roots down. And the first question I asked the guy when we got one-on-one conversations with him is, do you rent or do you buy a house? Because Bronco never actually bought a house here. He rented. And he said he was in the market to buy a house, which is another one of these things that allows him to win the press conference and endear himself to fans, because you certainly don't want a guy who's going to come in here, make $1.2 million right off the bat, and stay in an Airbnb. It's like, all right, I got 1 foot out the door already.
I like that answer. We're joined by Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Ed, I love you, and I ask you to join and host the show. I'm not trying to rag on you. The floor is yours to ask Will the next question.
Will, I would Fernando Lobo had been here less than a week, and he's got his first hire with Jason Eck. I think it's a good one. I saw I've been in Silver City, so I wasn't there at the press conference, but I went back and listened to it today. And I think, all things considered, you mentioned he won the press conference much more than Coach Mendenhall did. Mendenhall a very strange and awkward guy. You mentioned that personally, one-on-one. Some of the players said he was a great coach. You go with that. Maybe he's just not great in dealing with media. He has to be able to coach and talk to players. How important, for Fernando Lobo, this Lobo football program has not had a winning season since 2016. So for Jason Eck, he's got a lot of work here to do. The quarterback's gone. They've lost a lot of players through the transfer portal. What's the path of success that you see for him? He mentioned going to a bowl game. I thought he was enthusiastic, all the things you want to hear from a guy that got the job. What's going to be his biggest challenge here if he does stay here? Again, that stadium needs rebuilding. There's so many things with Lobo football that need to get there that haven't been addressed, and they need to be addressed. What do you think is going to be his biggest challenge in his first season?
Well, to answer that, I think you have to go back to some of the two of his predecessors. Bob Davie, when he was here, told us time and again, I know I ragged on Davie a little bit about it, how awkward he is. But the guy was really good during his weekly press meetings or luncheons that we'd have with him, because he would give us these little fireside chats about how great life was at Texas A&M and Notre Dame. And he talked about one of the biggest challenge of New Mexico, recruiting to New Mexico. It's not the lack of finances. It's not really the facilities. It's when you put a kid in an airplane and you fly him to Albuquerque. You can recruit a kid at TCU. You can recruit a kid at Tulsa. You can recruit a kid almost anywhere else. And you fly him into this place, and you're kind of flying over areas that look nice. It's like civilization down there. Said you put a kid in an airplane, you fly him to Albuquerque, and it's like an hour or two of just brown desert. And it's, for someone who's not from here, it is definitely a sense of culture shock. And he said that was the most difficult thing, is to get a kid from the airplane to the facility and then convince him that this was a place to be, because in a lot of ways, Albuquerque is like an island. The metro area has 800,000 or 900,000 people in it, but you go 20 minutes in any direction and you're out in the middle of nowhere. You're in Heisenberg territory. So there's that. And then Danny Gonzalez, one of the things that Danny always said that's really stayed with me is nothing draws people in. And we're talking about fans, boosters, and recruits alike, even the media, more than an orange barrel. If you have orange barrels, that means you have construction. It means you have development. It means that you're doing something to improve the infrastructure, whether it's the weight room or the sidewalk leading into the locker room, the press box, the concession stands, the parking lot, anything. As long as you have something out there that's going to be developed. And remember, it was during the Gonzalez and Davie era when they talked about developing the parking lot out by the corner of University and Cesar Chavez. They were going to put in restaurants and have some retail stuff right in the corner, which is what most stadium areas have. And that just never developed, never came to be. And it's things like that. I think you can get all the NIL money you want. You can have all the fancy alternate uniforms that they've had. They've had some pretty cool ones too. But the thing that's going to really get people to come behind you is to make the experience better for them. You look at the stadium right across the street, Isotopes Park. Man, I guarantee you could walk in Isotopes Park at any night and no one there knows how they're doing in the standings. No one there could really name more than 2 or 3 guys in the starting lineup, but they're not there to see the team win. They couldn't care less about that. They're there for the experience. The seats are comfortable. The food is cool. And the tickets to an Isotopes game are pretty cheap. Where they get you is at the concession stands. But when you're sitting there, you got your family in the ballpark, your kids want a hot dog, you go off and spend $40 at the concession stand. That's where they make their money. And that's what brings people back, is the experience of actually being in the ballpark and having a good time. You go to University Stadium, you're sitting on those aluminum bleachers, and half the stadium is baked in the sun. It's a tough sell. And when you have 37,000 seats and probably 20,000 of them on any given day are empty, it's just not a good look. And so you got to do something that's going to bring them in. And UNM, I think, they don't need to pay the football coach $3 million. They just don't. If a coach needs $3 million to come here, then just don't come here, because we can only afford to pay you 1.2. But what we can give you is a decent college day experience, and really maybe you come back next time.
You mentioned a lot
Really
of that.
good answer.
No, it is. It is. And I think especially, Will, if you look at the rebuilding of the sports stadium and what it became, I used to be one of the biggest Duke fans there was. I've read the box scores every day. Orlando Alvarez, Avonda Jesus, Greg Shanahan, all Jack Berconte, Ted Power, all those guys. I knew what their averages were, and then the stadium they went dark for 10 years, and when they came back, you hit the nail on the head there because I don't even know any of their players, and I used to be a guy that checked the box scores every day for when the Dukes were here. But the stadium, the ambiance, and everything you mentioned, that's one thing Albuquerque got right. They had mentioned maybe building it downtown. Thank God they did. There was a lot of controversy about that. And it was actually Mayor Jim Baca. Mayor Chavez tried to take some credit for that. That was Jim Baca's regime. And you had to give him, credit for that because that stadium was a definite hit. And it's someplace my wife and my family, we love going there. Again, not for the baseball. It's for the ambiance and the entertainment. You got kids games out there. You've got things that people want to come back to. So I think your thing about about the development around the stadium, gosh, maybe it will take place now because that stadium, as you mentioned, it's I think we've seen it. The attendance, what they announced, 14,000 for Washington State, probably more like what has it been the average attendance in the last 8 years? Probably what? 8 to 9,000, 10,000 maybe announced. So I think they've definitely got to do something there as far as marketing. But you made a comment, Will, about this wacky world of NIL and college athletics. I was just talking to a former Lobo, Phil Smith, who played back in the day for Gary Colson today. And what he had said to me a couple of years ago was athletes are not concerned about, developing. They're worried about their likes and clicks. And I think, somebody mentioned about leadership on teams, in this college world today. And you don't see a lot of leadership because you don't know if guys are going to stay here. You're not going to be loyal. You don't know if they're going to go in the portal and leave. So I think I just wanted to comment on that and get your comment about this wacky world that you're talking about. Because you mentioned every day, it's got to be very hard for you to cover. There's the headline every 5 seconds, it seems like. So just talk a little bit about that if you can.
Well, I think everyone knew that Dampier was gone as soon as he started racking up some decent numbers. Like, yeah, this guy's going to look good in like a Kansas State uniform next year when he transfers to the Big 12. You did go to the Big 12, just to a different school, and you could see it like with Eli Sanders and some of these guys. The ones that really hurt, like Luke Weissong leaving because you thought here's a true blue or true cherry red Lobo, but look, it's just the day and age that we live in. People are just trying to get what they can. And it'd be one thing for us fans and the people who throw our hearts on the table for a team that wears the uniform that we're loyal to say, gosh, you know what? I would never leave the University of New Mexico because it means so much to me. But let's face it. I think if we were all given the opportunity that these 18 to 22-year-old guys get when some school comes up to you and says, look, I can pay you $500,000 next year to come wear our uniform, no strings attached. You come to our school, you get a full scholarship, you give $500,000 or more, like JT Toppin got $1 million. I don't care how deep your ethics are, how deep your morals are, you're gone. Because these guys, the reason you go to college, the reason you try to get a college degree is to get a decent job. There's no more decent job than making 6 or 7 figures for 1 year of work to play basketball or football at a school of your choosing. And now it's a complete free agent market. These guys can literally play for 5 different schools in 5 different years and leave without telling anyone, and they can get recruited off campus by another school. Everyone says, they came and recruited our players and they were breaking the rules. Man, there are no more rules. You can leave whenever you want to. And if I could roll back the clock and see, I was never a good athlete, but if I was good enough to play Division I sports when the NIL era was coming, I would have loved to have gotten recruited by UNM. But I guarantee you, if LSU knocked on my door and offered me a giant paycheck big enough to live in Tanawon, the equivalent of Tanawon and Baton Rouge, I'd be like, just mail me my clothes. I'm out of here. I'm gone. So you can't, as much as you want to be angry at these guys for leaving and call them a turncoat and do whatever you want, look, it's going to happen in the basketball team. I can promise you there's going to be a couple of guys off this team in a couple of months when the season is over, they're leaving. And I know that a certain point guard who shall not be mentioned, last year he had a prominent program who was all over him. And he chose to stay here, and no one knows about that. No one knows how close he actually came to leaving. And the reason he stayed is, look, the guy's got a girlfriend. He's happy here. And so it's like what I tell the people who work in the collective for UNM. You don't recruit the player, you recruit the girlfriend. You don't recruit the player, you recruit the parents. That's what you do. You promise them opportunities. Maybe the kid stays, but at the end of the day, probably not. And look, the same thing is now true for the coaches. You almost have more staying power for the coaches than you do for the athletes, because coaches are almost in some ways locked down by a contract, but these players don't. And I'm telling you, man, if this continues, the entire system will eventually collapse, if only for the simple reason that NIL is generated almost exclusively by the boosters. If say Jeff Bezos was given money to UNM because he's got Albuquerque ties, and he just came up and threw $5 million at the basketball team, and then the basketball team, they peter out in the Mountain West tournament and they wind up in the NIT. Well, he's going to sit back and say, why should I give you guys $5 million to go to the NIT? That's $5 million of my own hard-earned money. Why do I have to keep giving that money back year after year when I could just give it to the library? They can rename Zimmerman Library after me. And so I think eventually people are just going to, you either find new avenues for NIL, which is through small market, there's like business opportunities, or eventually that little gold pot at the end of the rainbow is going to run dry, and everyone's going to be sitting around staring at each other. What happened? Well, yeah, everyone just got too greedy. We just ran out of money.
Another good answer. Ed, do you have another question?
No, you know what, Will? That is well put, and I think a lot of people are wondering that. Where does it end? You got a professional baseball player in Soto with a $796 million contract, and it was said that baseball might see $1 billion contract. That's at the pro level, but it all filters down. And the pro level, they won't; those owners won't run out of money anytime soon. But these things that you're talking about, that's a heck of a good answer, Will. And it's well researched. You've been around; you would know stuff like that. So I think I'm just shaking my head, like a guard like Phil Smith. You remember him, Will? When Phil and I were talking today, I said, Phil, how much would you make today, man? 1.2, 2, and Phil was just as good as Donovan Dent. I know, but people don't remember Phil. I get it, but Phil had every much as talent as Donovan Dent did, and he would have made $1 million, $2 million a day. We were laughing about that. So I think your answer there should make people stop and think about that, because I think like you, there will be an end to this somewhere down the line. I'm hoping not, but at the same time, the point guard you mentioned. I've heard about that offer, and yes, we're lucky he stayed, but he's got his eye out the door. There's no question about it. That's why I'm saying at the end of games, we said this. I've talked to a lot of coaches. I talked to a lot of coaches at the high school level, the Western coaches here, the Lobo coaches. It's not so much about winning anymore, and I'm not saying these guys are trying to throw games. I didn't say that, but it's about, I've got to get mine. I've got to see what, make sure my profile is jacked up because I need more money. That's what it's about. And that's Phil had said that 5 years ago. People were looking for their likes, their clicks, how many replays or likes did I get? And that's a shame, man, because it's not so much about winning. Now, the other thing is this. I love Coach Pitino. He's a great guy. You ask him questions, and you've been there, Will. He's going to answer every question, look you in the face, not make excuses. The guy's got his feet out the door too, man. It's the truth. If he gets a bigger offer, he's gone. Will, you just explained it in the best way. If LSU comes to you with $1 billion, you're going to say, ship my clothes to LSU, man, right? So he's got his foot out the door too whenever he can. That's the reality. That's just reality.
Yeah, he's look. It's a good thing they've gotten some practice with these midweek press conferences in the club level of the pit, because I think we're going to be going through it again in March. And it's nothing against Pitino. Look, I really like Richard Pitino. He's like the best conversations I've ever had with him is when the rest of the media forgets that we actually have a midweek press conference, and I show up and there's like one or two of us there, and then it's like this 20-minute conversation instead of a question and answer thing. It's just guys talking, and you cannot blame the guy if he gets an opportunity to go back east. And he's look, Coach Pitino is almost like a nomadic type. He's from the East Coast and he's got roots in the Big East. but he's coached everywhere, and his dad has coached everywhere. I think he would go to an opportunity that best presents itself. And it's not that he doesn't like UNM. It's not that he doesn't like it here. But I will say this, just having spoken to him, I think the collapse of the Mountain West is definitely going to have an impact on what he wants to do with his next step. I think it's not a good move for the basketball program to add UC Davis, to add Grand Canyon, to add UTEP. I mean, look, I know people are nostalgic about UTEP. They love the old days when Don Haskins was that was a million years ago, man. This is a different UTEP team we're talking about. And the Mountain West is not what it used to be. It was legitimately one of the top conferences in the country for men's basketball just 8 months ago. And now we're staring down the barrel of basically the WAC. That's what it's going to become. And Pitino, and with all due respect to the Lobo basketball program, he is too good to be in a conference that is the Mountain West is transitioning to. And I'd hate to see him leave because he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. But if he does go, man, I guess I would get some moving boxes and help him pack his stuff because I wouldn't blame him one bit.
Yeah.
Joined by Will Weber of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Some of the 2 years of doing this, probably some of the best answers we've got.
Very good.
Thanks, man. I wish I could turn
no.
on my lights. It's getting dark in here.
I'll make it. Yeah, well, I got somebody that has Vaseline on their screen, as you said, and then it's
that's funny, man. That's good.
In a dungeon, and then I can't figure out how to use.
I don't want to know how that Vaseline got there either. That's what I'm gonna say.
That's for another show, man.
That's for our OnlyFans page. Speaking of basketball, how do I transition out of that? That's coming from the homicide of the jet skiing squirrel. Speaking of basketball, how important is this VCU game in less than 2 hours?
Yeah, that's a big one. And it's funny because like my father-in-law, my wife Sarah is a huge Lobo basketball. She's the biggest Lobo basketball fan I know, and that is no joke. And I have met Lobo Gabe, by the way. But her father was like, who the hell is VCU? Like, well, they went to the Final Four 12 years ago. That's Shaka Smart. It made his career. But no, it's a big one. And look, if you're big into the metric side of it, the net rankings and the Ken Palm, it's kind of shocking because the Lobos were, I believe, 90 in the net yesterday, which is the lowest they've been in a while. And it shows that there's just not a lot of faith in this basketball team in the algorithms that are used. I know in the Ken Palm they were hovering around 70 or 65 or something like that, but VCU is basically a top 40 team in the Ken Palm. And if you win that game, you can pile it on with the UCLA win, which is looking better and better because UCLA keeps winning. And look, I know they lost to Arizona State. I know they played USC. The Aggie loss is going to hurt, but this VCU win, especially if they go on and win the A-10 like everyone expects them to, it's going to be a huge boost for them because when you put those people in a closed door setting in March to determine who's going to the NCAA tournament, they're going to look at what you did in the non-conference because the Mountain West is down this year. And the Lobos have, quite frankly, they played one of the best non-conference schedules they've ever had. And of all the Mountain West teams this year, you can compare it with probably Boise State and Nevada, what they've done in the preseason. So this win is huge for them. I'd go as far as saying they can ill afford to lose another non-conference game at home to another team in the month of December. So I don't know. I wouldn't say it was a must-win game, but it's pretty darn close. They're going to have to win this one.
What have you taken away from NMSU and Western New Mexico? Because and San Jose State was weird. They didn't look like the team that I saw in UCLA. I mean, and I don't think you can get a good reading on Western. But what did you take away from that 5-day stretch or 6-day stretch there?
Yeah, the New Mexico State game, it was interesting because even Pitino talked about that this week. It seems like every time they get a really huge crowd, they lose. And one of the conversations I've had with him is he said, "Look, coaching at New Mexico is a lot harder than you think it is because we get huge crowds." And look, he's coached in those environments too, like Florida, Louisville. He's been in Kentucky with his dad. And they get these massive crowds and you lose games. It's just part of the business. He said, but the difference is losing here it feels like you've let everyone down. There's such a moment of deflation when you lose in the pit and it's packed. And he talked about last year's Air Force game where that guy hit the shot right at the end of the game, and then True Washington had a chance to win the game, and he missed a buzzer beater right at the end. And he said, just walking out of that building, you feel bad that you lost. You're mad that you lost, but it's like, oh, good gravy. We broke the hearts of everyone here, everyone who pays good money in a state that is profoundly poverty-stricken the way New Mexico is. Look, you have to hand it to the fans for actually showing up to games, because tickets to a Lobo basketball game are not cheap. If you want to sit in the bottom 20 rows, you're paying $45, $50. I think it's actually $53 a ticket now to sit in the last 15 rows. And that's a lot of money for us in a place like this, throw in the concessions. So you're asking a lot of your fans to be there. So, look, as far as the takeaways from those games, I think the New Mexico State game was a huge letdown. Not necessarily because it was a loss. It's the way they lost. It's because they play long stretches of unmotivated basketball. And and Patino's talked about that, how in some ways he has to change his coaching style from being this X's and O's kind of guy to more of a parent. As these guys, he said that, you give them an inch, they want to take a mile. They're trying to negotiate their way out of certain things in practice. And there comes a time when you have to put your foot down. They're just like little kids. And he said he's having to learn how to coach these guys, which is why they had 7 a.m. practices for a week during finals, which is why they've gone these extra miles during practice to get work done. And where he's holding certain players accountable. Like he held True Washington out of the starting lineup last time, not because True was doing anything wrong. It's because he said he's sick and tired of watching Philip Borovician struggle. He's like, dude, you got to do something. I'm going to put you in the lineup. Quit playing like you're nervous. It's stuff like that he's got to deal with. So there's a lot more. It's not a lack of talent. It's a lack of want. It's a lack of drive. And as soon as he finds that thing out, I think they have a shot. They really do have a shot to make hay in the Mountain West. This team could eventually wind up winning 25 games or more during the regular season. They've got that talent, and the Mountain West is down enough for them to be that team this year.
Ed, do you have anything else for Mr. Will Weber?
One real quick question. Will, this has always been a Lobo fan base that feels, back in the day, Will, it's not back in the day anymore. I get that. But this is a team that was supposed to be pretty good, has gotten, some good victories against UCLA and USC, packed it in against New Mexico State. Are you surprised by the lack of sellouts or sometimes the lack of attendance there? Are you surprised by that?
No, because this is really probably the first good game that they've had at home. I mean, the New Mexico State game you're always going to sell that one out or get close to it. I don't think they're going to get that many people tonight. I think they might get 12,000. We're less than a week away from Christmas. And plus we're in the middle of the week. It's finals week for a lot of people. A lot of high school kids are going through their finals week. I know that because my kids are going through it. And so it's hard to get out on a Wednesday night and to go see a game. Look, as much as you want to pump up the crowd by saying it's Virginia Commonwealth, they went to the Final Four with Shaka Smart, it's still kind of this unknown entity for a lot of people. So I think you get that 11 to 12,000. I think people will be excited, but you're not going to really start to see those huge crowds until we get into November. And look, I'm going to write this, and I'll give you a sneak peek of my story for tomorrow. But tonight is the 999th game in the history of Lobo basketball in the pit. So game 1,000 for the Lobos is January 3rd against Nevada. And I could promise you, with Steve Alford and Craig Neal bringing their little circus to town for game 1,000, and the Lobos are going to be wearing special alternate uniforms for that game will be a sellout. And so that's the game you really don't want to lose. Man, you lose that game, and then you might as well just pack it in and then just have Patino start moving his office right now, because it could get ugly.
I did not know that. I learn something new every day. I'm looking forward to that now. We're going to have to blow that out of the water. I love it. He is a sports reporter for the Santa Fe New Mexican, and I'm sorry I flaked on you last week. Mr. Will Weber, thank you for joining us tonight. This was awesome. I'm going to have to bug you again.
I'm going to have to shoot out your porch light for standing me up there. It felt like we were going on a date, like a prom date, and then you didn't show up. I had to sit at the card table with all the other dorks.
Well,
thanks for that.
I won't do that to you again.
Yeah.
That I've done that to many a
Yeah,
woman.
you
So
had
there you
Greg
go.
Archuleta on the show last week. It's like, oh, come on. You had Cause on there instead of me? Jeez. I sat next to that clown for 15 years at the Journal. Yeah, that guy on there? All right.
I feel like my own version of Frank Mercogliano, so I have to take a pop shot on him on every one of this. Will, I appreciate your time, and I love the sense of humor. You know that, and joining us here. I will bug you again. I will see you in about an hour.
All right, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Will.
Later.
Will Weber of the Albuquerque Journal. Ed, I loved that conversation.
Gold. You know what? Think about what he said, and about Patino. Now, I've coached. I've been around kids, and I've coached the college level. I've been around, college coaches here at Western too. Think about what he said. Back in the day, the coach's word was law. You just did it, and now he's having to negotiate. People are negotiating, and you know what they're saying too. Look, I've been yelled at by coaches plenty of times back in the day, and you just did it, right? You just powered through it and did what they said, unless they're abusive. So what he's saying is, in other words, if you yell at someone, and George Scott said that Coach Pitino had told him that he really can't yell at these guys because they'll go to the portal. So, in other words, guys would accept criticism from a coach and just go out and do better. Go work on whatever it is the coach wanted them to work on. Now, they're looking at him like, you know what? The heck with this dude, man. I'll just transfer. So, think about what Will said that Coach Pitino told him. They're having to negotiate things like that. And find that right combination. But it used to just be like the coach has got the plan, you listen to the coach. And now it's looking, he's having to negotiate and plead, and sometimes I don't think he's begging, but the authority that a coach once had, that's it. Where Bobby Knight, and I said this to Phil Smith today. You imagine Bobby Knight being alive and trying to coach in this thing and this kind of NIL stuff. Bobby Knight would go crazy. He'd be like, "What are we doing here?" So it's what did Will call it? The wild, wacky world of college athletics. That's what it's become. I thought Ryan, you know what? He gave us some really good answers. I don't know if all those things will come to pass, but he was a great guest. He really was.
No, I'm glad I got him on. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to stand him up last week. I got to go to the comments before we get out of here. And Ed, I love you. Thank you for joining me on this. It makes this
man,
more
this is
easy.
fun.
When I have crazy days, it makes things a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to go to these comments. That way everybody stops hating me. UCLA, BT, USC, and UCLA are horrible. They lost to ASU and MSU. UCLA is 14 in the Ken Palm. I don't think ASU is such a bad loss. I don't know where they are in Ken Palm. By the way, we were talking about it. UNM is number 70. VCU is 42. So win tonight is big. I'm going back to BT. Haste La Vista, Patino is tired of laziness of players. Thank you, Portal NIL. I don't know if they're necessarily lazy. I've said on this show, I've told Donovan Dent to shut up. You need to stop not bitching and moaning at the referees. That's doing you no good. And let's see, just more comments. Final five, Lupin. Well, I can't read that soaking one or docking one. We will have larger buyouts. That was for Will. Trevor Lurt. Yes, this is fascinating. Cam Rising, who was the quarterback at Utah, has had multiple injuries. Trevor Lawrence are the same age. Trevor is a vet in the NFL, and Cam is still floating around college. That's crazy to me. If you're going to make money, why are you stopping people from making money? That's my argument. For UNM game, maybe tonight's light due to the students not being here. That might be it. Ed, any final thoughts before I let you go?
You know what? How you and make sure you tell Jacob I said hi. You guys have fun at the game, man. That's going to be. I'm going to watch here in the hotel in the Mountain West. So you guys have fun.
I'm looking forward to it. This is the kind of basketball that Neff and I love. I'm excited. He is credentialed with UNM, but he's busy. And when he saw this game on the schedule, he was like, I'm going to that one. So we are getting, and he's never done it before. So excited for that. I'm going to get out of here because I'm going to try to eat. Then we're going to head to the pit. I want to thank Will Weber, Santa Fe, New Mexican. I always love talking to him. I've known him forever. Appreciate it. That was a much better conversation than I had. I knew it was going to be good. Better than I had anticipated. Ed, I always appreciate you. I know you're doing this off your phone. I thought it was funny that he said that right when he logged on, and I was like,
yeah.
He probably thinks. But
that was funny.
I don't know what he's like, what we think we're running here. But I really, really appreciate you always hopping on.
No, thanks a lot, Ryan. It was fun.
If you have time, go to anywhere you can find a podcast. Eric Moulton, Rick Thompson, and Jacob Neff broke down this game tonight. You still got some time to listen to it. We're trying to do that. They'll recap this game as well. Friday, same times, same Lobo, same Lobo time, same Lobo place. We will be talking to get Ed an NIL deal for a better camera. He's in Silver City off of his phone. That's why tonight. He's usually at home and he does look okay or good, whatever adjective you want to use.
Okay, fine. As long as my wife says I look good, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah. Friday, same time, same place. Fernando Lovo at 4:15, your new UNM athletic director. Everybody enjoy the game tonight. Look out for other content on the Pit Press NM. Want to thank our sponsors, Dulce River Bakery and Coffee, Affordable Solar, Turquoise Desert Tap Room, Hydro Bar, and Affordable Service for helping us out. Everybody enjoy the game tonight. I will talk to you on Friday. Have a good one.
Thank you.